Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides. I am Jeanne Gallagher, and I am here with Denise.
The menopause mentor.
So, Denise, what are we going to talk about today?
So, the end of the year is coming, which means the new year is coming. And even though people are spending a lot of money because of the holidays and everything, what I'm really thinking of it, we're thinking about allocating, our money or saving our money because of all the stuff that's going on. But I think what happens is in our lives, especially in midlife and beyond, we forget that we need to pay attention and allocate our energy, attention, and emotional bandwidth with the
Hmm.
same kind of intentionality that we do with maybe a budget, right?
Mm. Oh, right. That makes it, that seems obvious, but not obvious at all.
Right. So I know this isn't exactly the case in my house, but in many households, midlife women or the mom operates kind of as the
Hmm.
chief financial operate CFO, right,
Yeah.
with their families. My mom absolutely was that person, when I was growing up. Um, and she managed everything. Um, until she got around that midlife menopause thing when all of a sudden, she wasn't managing things as well, right? Hormone shifts, nervous system rises, the stress rises just because of hormones, but also, by the time you're in midlife, like you've got a mortgage payment, you've got a car payment, you've got two kids that are
Hmm.
going to be going to college, like all of these things, right? The responsibilities start piling up. So it's
Hmm.
really easy to kind of fall into, let's just say, energetic overdraft.
Ooh, right. I love
Right,
that.
without even realizing it.
Right.
I've
It
heard about
catches
this.
you way after it's happened.
Right, exactly. And all of a sudden you're going, ooh. But I think what happens is we need to understand that our energy is actually our most valuable currency as a person,
Hmm.
right? And this is kind of the, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? The more you withdraw, sorry, I don't know where that New York accent came out of, right? The more you withdraw energy, giving out your energy, then bringing it in, depositing it, right? It
Hmm.
it shows up as exhaustion,
Hmm.
irritability, brain fog, feeling unlike yourself. Oh my God, doesn't that sound like menopause for most women?
Hmm.
But maybe it's not just menopause. Maybe it is because they
Hmm.
go hand in hand. It's because we're just always giving our energy to other things, other people, and not getting it back, right? Whether it's we need a nap or we need to sit and meditate, we're not taking the time to, replenish our energy.
Hmm. Yeah. And then you toss in holidays or any other special occasions on top of that that brings external responsibilities that or we want to have the perfect holiday or the perfect thing and you toss the pressure of all of that on top of what's already overdrafted energetically. I really love that term. I'm going to say it four times because it's really fantastic. It says everything right there in two words. And and so now you toss everything else and it is super overload.
Mhm. And what we think is we think we need more energy, right? We need a bigger energy budget,
Hmm.
right? But in reality, what we need is a calmer nervous system and
Mm.
habits that support us literally from the inside out. So when we actually take the time to kind of stabilize our inner world, our thoughts, our feelings,
Hmm.
um, emotions, all of that, we actually start making decisions that nourish us and
Hmm.
start, kind of putting depositing a little bit more here and there rather than draining us or draining the energy budget. What was that?
Yeah, no, that's really fantastic. And so what are the steps? First of all, how do people recognize that they're close to overdrafting? And two, what are the steps to either stop that or fix what's happened?
Mhm. I think every person who is in energy deficit absolutely knows.
Hmm.
They're kidding themselves, right? They think, oh, I can do more, I can do more. They know how they feel. When it starts, when you really notice it, or when things start to get so bad that you're snapping at people,
Hmm.
you're always like rush, rush, rush. And the more you rush, the more you drop things, the more you forget things. Um, you just kind of sit down at the end of the day and you crash, right? There's nothing left. So these are the things we need to start recognizing before we get to that, to the crash. The financial crash, energy crash, right? Because we know in both of those experiences, it takes time to bring
Hmm.
it back, right?
Sure.
So recognizing how you feel and not ignoring it.
Mm.
The next thing is setting a boundary.
Mm.
We don't do that. Or we say we have boundaries, but then we let other people and other things get in the way, and then that's not a boundary,
Right.
right? It's a good thought. It's a great thought. Um, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries when it comes to your energy. It's time to learn what our limits are. How
Hmm.
much can you do? Um, how much can you take? How much can you give? Right?
Hmm.
If you're just giving and giving and giving, maybe it's time to ask for something that you need.
Yeah.
And I think the next thing that's really important that is women we tend to be bad at until we get to this stage in life when we're going, right? Saying no. I
Ooh.
say this all the time to my clients. If it's not a hell yeah, then it's a hell no. Can't
Mm.
do it. And to say no with grace, without an explanation, you don't have to explain yourself to the lady at the PTA. I don't know where PTA came out of. At the PTA because you can't, be in charge of the cupcake sale. No, thanks for thinking of me, but I can't, I don't, I'm not able to at this time. Whatever your phrase is, and I would say come up with how you say no, how it makes it feels good for you when you say no.
Right,
I
because our
always,
intention or our inclination is to say yes and fix it. And well, if these three people aren't going to do it, I might as well just do it because nobody else is saying it. And so I might be speaking for myself, but I've had those thoughts in the past before. Well, I'll just do it. It's easier.
right, right,
I'll just
and
do it. So you find these trigger phrases that you find yourself thinking or saying that can be an alert for yourself that you are obligating, starting to do things outside of what you really need to be doing in order to take care of yourself. Oh, I'll just do it. It'll be okay. It won't take me that long, and let me just get this out of the way so that I can get onto something else. All of those thoughts or words really point to the, is this going to serve you today?
yeah, exactly. And just keeping this little thread here. We talk about, at least we talk about this in my house every now and then. Um, compounded interest, right?
Mhm.
I like to talk about compounded effect of the nervous system, right?
Mm.
Regulating your nervous system. It's kind of the same thing or similar. There's a link. There is a link there,
Mhm.
right?
Sure.
When your hormones are fluctuating, and this is, as a women, our hormones are fluctuating like our entire life. Oh, by the way, we just feel it in different.
It's more
Uh,
apparent when you're at a certain age.
yes. So hormones fluctuating. What are we experiencing? first and foremost. We're overthinking things. We're second guessing ourselves. Emotionally, it's intense. Whether, you're sharing what's going on or not, inside it's intense, right? Difficulty focusing, scattered decision making. This is where those boundaries, if we have them set, if we're starting to feel a little, we're not really sure what decision we should make or not. If it doesn't fit into the boundary or your core values, it doesn't, it's a no. Again, it's a hell no, right? So all of these things it's all our biology kind of doing its thing, right? Again, nervous system overload, clarity disappears. And again, we fall into this saying yes for yes sake and feeling overloaded, overburdened, overdrafted, overdrawn. So I guess the way to think of it, or the message here, think of your nervous system is like a power plant. It's your power plant of life, right? There's that energy piece again. When it flickers, everything dims. When it steadies, the whole world brightens, and especially this time of year where it's supposed to be fun and happy and joyous. And yet so many people are saying, you just got to get through the holidays.
Right.
Talk about dimming a light. So I guess in closing, my thought would be to, one, make sure I'm going to rewind this. Number one, I think, is understand your core values, who you are, what you're about, and set your boundaries. Take time for yourself, whether that's a walk out in nature, really a good idea, unless you're in Minnesota right now, because apparently it's -8 degrees. People do it, I don't. Right, it's taking time for breath work. It's taking time to fuel our body with nutrition, and really creating emotional clarity and confidence. You're going to love this. That compounds over time. There was a connection there.
Yeah, very well done. Very, very well done.
So I guess last thing I'd love to say is, we talked about some energy and why that's so important. One of the things that I have done in the last couple of weeks is I've realized, as I'm talking with clients, that they really are looking for a central nervous system reset. And I did create a new handout, freebie handout. It's just a 3-day reset, simple, and it basically just it helps you look at what's going on in your life and just taking little things away that just drain our energy. For example, one thing, is deleting an email, like unsubscribing from an email list that you're not even interested in anymore. Right? Little things that help us calm our nervous system, that help us increase our energy and really be able to enjoy this time of year, whether it's the holidays, whether it's summer vacation, whether it's you're going to be spending time with family, whatever it looks like, to really enjoy the time without overdraft.
That's awesome. And if they'd like to get that tip sheet, how do they do that?
I do have, I'll put a link in the, I'll have a link to put into your show notes, because right now, off the top of my head, I can't think of what it is.
Is there a link on your website as well?
There will be, yes. So they can go to Denise.
Perfect. Perfect. Awesome. Denise, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for having me, Jeanne. It's always fun.
Oh. Hello, everyone. This is Jeanne Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food,
Why does it matter? How does that apply to me? How do I change? What do I need to do? How do I even create a healthy living shopping list? Make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach. And you can find her at healthylivinglist.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Ties, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I'm Jeanne Gallagher, and if you're just listening to us on your favorite podcast platform and you'd like to see our happy faces, hop on over to YouTube and we'll be there. And I'd like to welcome Bobbie Harris. Hey, Bobbie, how are you?
Hey, Jean, I'm great. How are you?
Very well. I'm so excited to have you here today. We've talked about this for a while, and so glad to have this happen finally. And so, Bobbie, before we get started, give us a little bit of a background and what you do, and then we're going to dive in.
Yeah, sure. So I am the owner of Bobbie Harris Transformational Coaching, and I do life coaching and prosperity coaching for women.
And a little bit of disclosure. We've known each other for a while.
A little bit.
A few years, and through that, so your business, I want to get into your business because what you do is really phenomenal. I think the most important part about what you do is you've walked the walk yourself first. You're not telling people what you think would be great for them. You've really demonstrated, and I've seen such an opening or an evolution, I guess is a great way to put it for you personally too. But where did all this start? You prior to your business, you were an employee, you worked in a corporate position, right? Let's talk about this and the transition of why, because I know a lot of people are wanting to be entrepreneurs, self-employed, but they're working a corporate job, and it's just really that transition is really difficult. And you put a ton of work in for yourself and your family prior to making the jump.
Yeah, so I started, I was at an electric utility um, locally in my community
Mhm,
in Sacramento, and I had been there 25 years. I just literally retired from there at the end of September. And during that time frame, when I was 41, I was feeling like, I was sitting there kind of balancing my checkbook because I raised my hand in my husband and I's relationship, and I said, I'll balance the checkbook. I'll handle the finances. I know how to do that. And but as I was sitting there at 41, I was balancing that checkbook and I was realizing there was a repeated pattern in our relationship for years
mhm,
where I would put money away at the beginning of the month, and then I would have to, at the end of the month, when I'm balancing, pay bills or pay credit cards. And then there just
mhm,
wasn't really anything left over. And, at 41, I felt Mike and I were at our, peak of our careers. We made great money.
mhm,
We had a 10-year-old, and I didn't put any money away for our 10-year-old for
mhm,
college, but we knew that she was going to go to college. And I had a pension at my company, luckily, but we weren't putting any extra money away. And
mhm,
so I kind of came to the realization like, I'm really failing here.
mhm,
I'm really failing in, I raised my hand and said I would handle our finances and I would manage that. But there was just a lot of shame. I just finally realized like we were really living outside of our means and we weren't really managing our finances. And so I made the decision to swallow my pride and say I failed here and
mhm,
go and do some research and find, how do I improve our situation? Like we do need to put money away for our daughter. We do need to start putting more money for retirement because I did want to leave the corporate world and do something different. I wanted to leave early at 50, but we just didn't really have a way out. So I did find a system that really helped teach on how to build security first and then build wealth later. But what I really learned was it was about becoming conscious with your money and
mhm,
aligning your life to whatever your vision is, whatever your goals are, but being conscious about it. And so the act of doing that, I was able to retire before 50, just before 50. Um, and move into a career that I felt like was more meaningful, and
Mhm.
I was going to help make a difference in others.
One thing that you mentioned is, and I wanted to try to maybe pick this apart because I think it's really important. You had used two very, very strong words. And for a lot of people, those two words can drag them down, and it's difficult to see the light on the other side. You had said that you felt like the failure and shame, and that those are two very firm words. And so, and if you think about this, you're also at the height of your career, doing, both of you doing well, making a good income. You were living comfortably, but underlying there is this piece of, this doesn't serve us,
Right,
or it's serving today, but it's not going to serve tomorrow.
right.
And how was it hard for you to take that shame or that feeling like you're just not going to make those expectations yourself? Was it difficult to take that negativity and turn it into a positive action?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We had a different financial advisor at that time, and we'd asked her, like, what would it be, what would we need to retire early? And she'd done some work on it. She was like, it's $2 million. I showed it to Mike, and I was like, we're like 1.9 million short. Like, this is never gonna happen. Like, are you kidding me? Like, we just laughed. We were like, we were gonna do that. And so that was before that time when I was really, really getting serious about, like, we are really not getting anywhere.
Mhm,
And so for me, I think, that shame was it for me personally, that shame of, like, I really failed. Um, I'm a kind of person that I would turn that into determination, really, to find a way
mhm,
out of this. I'm by nature a problem solver, and
mhm,
um, tenacious about things
mhm,
when I set my mind to something. And so I will go after it. But I think for other people, and this is common, right? The feeling of shame like this around finances and money,
mhm,
and feeling like a failure. I feel like it's not really their fault, because our society hasn't taught people how to manage their money. Our society
mhm.
teaches us how to make money by going to college and pursuing careers. And then every day we're pummeled with how to spend it.
Right.
But we're not.
Especially right now, here we are,
Right,
Black Friday, Cyber
right,
Monday, Christmas
exactly.
season. Yeah,
Actually, it's like Black November, and
right.
then they're stretching into summer now, and so there's Prime Day in the middle of summer, so it's just spin, 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 and so I think part of that is not their fault, because we are not taught how to manage money, um,
Hmm.
and but I think the other part that they can take is they can recognize what's happening, become conscious of what's happening, and be empowered to do something about it, and to know they're not alone, and there's
Hmm.
other people out there, and there are resources out there to support them to change things.
Mm, it's really true. And so now the next steps are, first is the realization, here's what we're doing. Does it serve you? Both of you, when I say you, it's both you and Mike. Does it serve you? And and does it serve where you want to be, and taking and really looking at, what does the future look like? If we continue to do what we've been doing all along, we're going to be comfortable. We're going to be at, it's going to be the similar things, but is it going to work towards that end result that you're really looking for? Was it difficult? So if one person in the relationship says, I'm going to handle the finances,
Hmm.
is it difficult? It can be very challenging to get the other half of the relationship on board, because now all of a sudden you're talking about a change.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think in my circumstance it was easier. My husband is a little bit more easygoing than other folks might have in their relationships.
Hmm.
But I think it might be helpful to even have an outside resource help them understand what the differences that they can have in their life, whether that's a financial advisor or a coach or whoever that is.
Hmm.
When people have different ideas of what that future looks like, right? It might be
Hmm.
helpful to have a third party come in and help them together
Have that
work on what
conversation.
that vision is. In my
Yeah.
situation, I don't think I necessarily had to have that. My husband was very trusting and you know, aligned with whatever, you know,
Hmm.
he was okay with me having the ropes. But I feel like for other people, they might need to have you know, a third party help them through that process and work together. And what is that, and how do we get there together?
And start that open line of communication. What do you really want? And
Yeah,
how bad do you want it? And what are you willing to do to get there?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So now you've created the plan, you're working the plan. Did it starts to it okay, first of all, it doesn't go well every month. There's always that.
Absolutely.
But it starts to build this a more positive momentum than negative momentum.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I think first becoming conscious of our money, having kind of a family meeting with my husband and daughter and I about how we are going to start really actively managing our money together.
Hmm.
And even, you know, at that time, educating our daughter at 10, like we are now going on a budget. And, you know, you need to come to us with things and let us know when you have things going on for school, when you have activities, you know, you're a part of that plan with us.
Hmm.
And really working that together. And so it was hard because, right, we went from no control and totally out of control and doing whatever we wanted and just putting money on credit cards to now we are having some rails and we're
Hmm.
now living a different conscious lifestyle. And that was a transition for us, absolutely, because we had to
Hmm.
make decisions about what was important and what wasn't anymore. And some of those things we had to say goodbye to, right?
Hmm.
And move on and say that's less important now because we know where we're going.
Hmm. Yeah. And once you're working through the created a system, once you've created that system and you're working the system, and now you're starting to see the positivity that's happening, things are working, and this is not a short commitment.
This was a 9 year commitment for us.
Yeah.
Well, it was actually eight. I mean, we went 8 years. We went from 110,000 net worth to 1.5 million, and we paid off our house in that 8 years. Because right before we started this process, we just purchased a house, and
Hmm.
then we were able to pay it off in that 8 years. So yeah, in that 8 years, that was a huge transition for us. And really
Hmm.
leveraging our great incomes to help us propel and where we
Hmm.
needed to go and what we were trying to achieve. And you know, we're now nine years into it, and we'll never give it up because this is a system that works and is proven. And
Hmm.
you know, many other millionaires. Chris Hogan came out with a book years ago about an everyday millionaire, and
Hmm.
in that study, it talked about how most millionaires, everyday millionaires, engineers, teachers, people who became millionaires, the biggest thing was having a budget and being
Hmm.
conscious about their money. And so you know, the proof is in the pudding there, right?
Hmm. And so the your system is working exactly like it's supposed to for you, with hiccups along the way. But so now what happens? This is the transformational part.
Mhm.
What happened? What do you think over that 9 year period? How did things, not budget wise, because you've already figured that part out, but how did things transform for you personally through that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for me transformational, and I think this has been more recent in kind of moving into my coaching stuff. I think it's about part of this process and what I've learned through this process and moving into a coaching business too is that, you know, there's lots of financial systems out there. There's lots of financial advisors and folks that teach you the skill part, right? The skill is that we never learn in schools.
Mhm.
Um, and that's great, but it's just like a diet. Like we all know what we should be eating. We
Mhm.
know what we shouldn't be eating, but until we address those inner barriers and those old stories of who we've been,
Mm.
we address those and unlock those, we will go back and revert to that old self. And that's where the transformational work really happens, is working through those inner barriers of I'm not enough, right? So if I have an inner barrier of like I'm not enough, then I might not ask for my real worth at work. I might not ask for those raises that I might be deserving. I might not feel like I'm good with money or that I know how to invest, right? But until we change that old story and move to a new story that is empowered, then you
Mm.
can move out of that and stay out of that, and then execute those financial skills and abilities and behaviors because you are in a more powered state than where you were before.
Mm. Oh, I love that. I love that the old story versus the new story, but it's not just a new story, it's a new empowered story.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I love that.
Right. I mean, like
Well,
for me, like we were living like in a sense of like a sense of lack. Like I did feel like a long time we were living in a sense of lack. But today, because we've gone through this process and everything, I feel like I live more in a sense of an abundance and
mm,
empowerment, and that money is an empowering tool, not something to be afraid of or scared of or anything like that. But I've done a lot of work over the years to move into that situation.
mhm. And what's interesting is for people that are on the outside looking in, it might not look like anything has changed, right? So if you think about a neighborhood, so you're in your neighborhood and you
Yeah.
don't really know exactly what's going on in each person's house, even though you might talk to them. But on the outside, it looks like things are the same. But on the inside of that house, it's where that transformation happens. And it doesn't mean that there's more fancy things outside,
Right.
because it really means that it's that inner change. And you can take that analogy to your person or yourself, and it's that inner change that happens. You might not look any different on the outside, but the work that's happening on the inside is creating that new story. And so how do you help people go from here's your old story, let's talk about what that is, and how does this reinvention happen, or
Yeah.
start to make those changes?
Yeah. So good question. So I think that through the coaching I do, which is different than just, I think, and how I started with financial coaching was more of that linear masculine process of like,
Mhm.
the goals, the tasks, the linear line of like, let's get things done, let's learn the skills, right? That's a very linear process. The process that I do is a women-centered coaching process, which really first addresses, women first connecting with their intuition. A lot of times in our society today, we're kind of in our minds, but now I'm really having women connect into their intuition. All of the answers are really within ourselves of what
Mhm.
we need to do and how we need to operate. So connecting with that first and then identifying that old story and working through like, what is that old story? Where do we keep getting stuck in life? What are the patterns that keep showing up? And once we identify and name it, I think it's important to name it because it's kind of like our
Mm.
shadow self. Once we name that old story, then there's a period of observation of like, well, how am I operationalizing that old story? So, for example, myself of like, I'm not enough. I
Mhm.
found myself in the corporate world doing like 3 times the work of everybody else because I just felt like I was never enough. Like,
Mm.
what made me feel like enough was producing.
Oh, wow.
Enough,
That's interesting.
enough wasn't my new story is I'm enough just being who I am and just being
Mm.
here and having presence. That's a
Wow.
that's a
That's
huge
really
shift.
interesting, Bobbie, because how many people can identify with that, being able to multitask or do more, or, well, if I leave this job, it's going to take four people to do what I'm doing, not from a bragging standpoint, but just from exactly what happens. And where is all of that coming from? And is it filling a space that that might not be um that should be better defined?
Mhm. Right.
Wow.
Recognizing, operationalizing an old story from long ago, childhood, right? These all come from earlier times of survival, right? So, what is that old story? Making sure we understand how it's operationalizing in our lives and being able to kind of talk about that. And then, is there a point where you're ready to let go of that story and break through it and create a new empowered self? And then once you're ready to create that new empowered self, then that's where the the financial skills, the abilities, the behaviors, that's part of that growth path of
Mhm.
building that new empowered self.
And that's where that linear, the masculine piece comes in, and it starts to direct or not shape, because I think that more the women centered piece is more shaping everything, but
Yes.
that linear piece is really driving that full action.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's different about the women centered is that as women, we're not so linear, we're
Hmm.
kind of an ebb and flow. And again, if we're touching into our intuition, there's going to be more, it's going to be more of an ebb and flow of this process. There might be more pulling back and dealing with some of those inner things, then moving forward and doing action and tasks and goals, and we got to just go
Hmm.
go go. And so it's going to be more of an organic process than
Hmm.
this, like, we've got to hit these tasks and you got to be following up on these and these action items. And it's just a very different way of working the process. Yeah, we will get to those things in time, but we've got to work this other more meaningful process so that you can be more empowered.
So as you're working with people through this, in this transformation, I keep using the word, but it's so appropriate,
Right.
and because it is an evolution and a change. Do you find, what are you seeing from the outside, looking in at that third party perspective? What changes are you seeing in people as they're working through this?
Yeah, I'm seeing people start to really shed some of these old stories that have been taking place from their past. There's one woman I was working with that was in her 20s, and she had a lot of stuff around visibility and just feeling like she needed to kind of keep up with the Joneses and present and all of these things. But and that was being reflected in her spending, right? And
Hmm.
so just being aware of that, and is that where she really wants to be? Do you still need to be, enough in presenting all of this, or, can you let all of that go?
Hmm.
Right. And working through that stuff. So there's been some just seeing people kind of blossom. And that's kind of why I have my
Hmm.
background of the flowers, because what I'm really watching people do is unfold and bloom.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a really great analogy
Yeah.
of the flower and the unfolding. And
Mhm.
that term is so appropriate because there is that, the opening of possibilities.
Right. Right.
So in order to create this piece or work on or paint this picture, you're really helping people not just work through their goals, but first they have to define what they are.
Mhm.
And a lot of people might say, well, I'd like to blah, 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 blah. Or, yeah, I'd like to. But it, that I'd like to isn't, the words that are used for that are not conducive for allowing the goal creation to happen. So people have to really change how they're speaking to themselves, as well as how they're speaking to others, but mostly to themselves. But what is it like working with people, helping them what are some of the steps to help them figure out what their goals should be?
Yeah. So my first thing that we work on together after we start, after we do an intake is we do kind of the Ignite the Vision session. And that is really where I work with folks to create a visceral vision, right? So we get into more of like, not only just like, what does that vision look like, but how does it feel? How does it taste? What do you see? Like we create this
Mm,
visual vision that you can really connect with. And
mhm,
what does that look like? And then once we have a vision of what it is that you're interested in doing and where you want to go, who you want to be, then we create a coaching outcome for the time that we're going to work together. It might not be, it's going to be in direction to that vision, right? But it's a
mhm,
smaller time frame, right? Like my vision of leaving my company was a a 9-year task, right? I couldn't just do that in some coaching time frame. So we work towards that and we chunk out the beginning steps of like moving in that direction and getting people going because they shouldn't have to coach forever. So moving them towards that.
mhm. And what do you see as people are starting to not realistic is the wrong word, envision their goals, or their goals are starting to become the ownership of their goals? And do you find that the first conversations, what they think their goals are, actually changes as you're going through the Ignite the Vision sessions and taking the next steps? Do you find that these goals are really evolving and maybe becoming different, but also deeper?
Yeah, so far what I've noticed is that there might be some modifications. We will
Hmm.
retouch on it, and we'll look at it. There might be some modifications, but we really try to make sure. Yeah, I really try to make sure that when we create that goal for our coaching outcome, that it is
Hmm.
achievable. That it seems like
Hmm.
it's something you can achieve. It's still a stretch, right? Because it's still
Oh,
something you're
sure.
moving towards, but it's achievable. It aligns viscerally with the vision you're trying to achieve. And so I am seeing a little bit of a modification there, but people really are moving in that direction and moving towards achieving those goals.
That's amazing. And how fulfilling it is for you
Yeah.
to watch that
Yeah.
take place for them.
It's so exciting. I love being on the path with someone
Hmm.
else, like unfold and see them blossom. Like I just absolutely love it. It's just exciting to see. And that's where I'm like, this work I feel is so meaningful. It's not about doing a bunch of presentations and, doing VIP sessions and doing large coaching. Like my practice is very small and boutique in the sense that I only want to maybe serve 10 to 20 clients a year because I really
Hmm.
want deep, meaningful conversations and change in the client.
Personalized
Yeah, that's what I,
and very personal.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that that's important because there are many cookie cutter scenarios out there where people are trying to fit into the coaching session or fit into what's being presented, and to for you to have the privilege to erase all that and say, no, 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 we're going to create your plan, and your plan, it will look different than this
Uh,
other person's plan because it's individualized. And I think that that's so important.
yeah, absolutely.
Living health.
Yeah. And that's where I want to go.
Hmm. And so now, if you take Bobbie and you look at Bobbie 9 years, 10 years
And to do that,
ahead,
let's take,
and
okay, because
you
it really matters.
you
So
hold
I
on a second. We're gonna have to
visiting
we're gonna have to cut this. Fred,
and, and I
Denise,
went to visit my
Fred,
aunt who I haven't seen in quite a few years. I know I'm a bad niece,
it's
right?
Denise in the background. So as we're talking about your customization of programs, working with clients, it's really individualized. And that's just so important because you're not requiring people to fit into a mold that you've created. You're giving people the opportunity to create their own program with you as the guide.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's just phenomenal and personalized. In that also gives the ability for people to find their own empowered new story.
Mhm. And that's exactly what it's all about, is really for them to figure that. The way I kind of see it is like, we all operate on to some extent in our old stories, right? And
Hmm.
when we do that, we're in our regular environment with our families and everyone around us who only knows us in that old story, right?
Hmm.
And so
That's hard
really,
to break too.
right, that's hard to break because you're in this, that's how they see you, right? And so what I feel like I'm creating is a growth container, a chrysalis where the two of us are allowing you the period of time to grow and to change into a new story. And I'm there really as your guide to help you catalyze that and amplify that and support you in that growth so that you can evolve into this new self. And part of
Hmm.
that is when you go back to your real life, there might be some things that you're shedding. There might be some conversations you'd be having. There'd be different
Mm.
behaviors, right? But you are already starting to evolve into, it's kind of like a butterfly, and that you are
Hmm.
already starting to evolve into this new person, this new way of being, so that you could go back to that and be more successful in that process.
Mm, that's amazing. So as you look at Bobbie now and you look back over the last 10 years and see where you've come and this is your butterfly, right?
Mhm.
You are the butterfly that has come from that chrysalis. What do you see in yourself and your family? Well, how has that change? What does that change meant to you guys?
I feel like this new way of being and really being in my feminine energy more so than my
Hmm.
masculine energy. I think being in my corporate life, I was very much, it's a male dominated industry, and it served me well in my time there. But being now in my feminine energy, being connected to my intuition and my center and really connecting to people at that level, I think that's also impacted my family's life. Like there's been times where I've coached my husband, my daughter, and things that they've been going through. And so I just feel like I'm just in a better place of really connecting to others and feel like I'm there to support others in their growth more so than I've ever been in my life. And I feel like that's so exciting and enjoyable to just see other people grow and be a part of that process.
In so for me, I'm kind of that third party, though I didn't really coach you on the feminine side piece, but I've watched this transformation for all of you. And for me, you know what I see? I see you are so more grounded.
Oh, yeah.
You were always focused. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about the focus part. You were
Yeah.
always focused
Yeah.
on and working all of your steps, but there's this grounding and this piece where given up control, but you've allowed you've allowed things to happen as they should.
100%. Like I feel like this phase of my life is really all about being in the present,
Hmm.
right? And being in the unknown. And that's okay. That I feel
Mm.
like the universe has me and whatever's planned is planned. And that I don't need to, I just need to be here in the present. I need to be in myself and provide for others in this space right here and now and not worry about what the future holds. And I just feel like it's all going to come together. Like I just feel like I'm in this space of just abundance and presence.
Mhm.
Absolutely. 100%
Mm.
you're reading that.
And so if people are feeling called to, boy, I think I really need to talk to Bobbie, what are some of the signals, or what should they be listening to which would make them a great um, person for you to help?
Yeah, so I think very similar, like of my lived experience. I think I could relate well to women who also feel like they might be in the corporate environment and they make great money but just don't know what they're doing, why they're
Hmm.
doing it, feel a little bit lost on that path, know that they have a future to plan but just don't know how to get there as far as managing their their daily finances and things. I think I would relate well to those types of women. And also women who are ready for a change, but don't know how to get there, right? Don't know how
Mm.
to plan that change. What does that look like? I'm afraid of that, right? those are the women that I really feel like I align well with,
Mhm.
and helping them with their path and moving forward and getting them to other resources to support them on that path.
Wow, fantastic. And so, Bobbie, how do they get in touch with you? Where do they find you?
They find me at bhtransformationalcoaching.com.
Fantastic. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. And it's just fun because we've talked about this for a while, and this seemed like exactly the right time. And I'm so glad that we finally got around to having this conversation. And I'm really excited for what you do and how you help people, and for all these next stages for everybody to find for themselves.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeanne. It's been a blast.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me, and if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.